The format for this meeting is a 10-minute speaker, our secretary's announcements, a coffee and snack break, and our main speaker. Our first speaker tonight is Jordan.
Yes.
It's a nice crowd, Jordan. It's a nice crowd.
All right. My name is Jordan. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Alan, for having me, and thanks, Shawnee, for asking me to speak. Okay, yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of a rundown. So my sobriety date is April 25th, 2021. I'm coming up on 2.5 years sober. I'm going to tell you kind of what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I grew up actually in the South Bay. My dad was emotionally and physically abusive, ended up leaving my life when I was around 12 years old, so I was with my mom up until I was 16. My mom was a alcoholic and a sex addict. It was hard seeing her, do a lot of different things. I saw things as a kid that I shouldn't have. I took care of my mom. I was paying my mom's bills when I was 13. And by the time I was 16, she drank so much, I ran out of money, and we both became homeless. I went on my own way, and I slept in my car for about 6 months, started staying at my ex-girlfriend's place. And that was a journey. That's kind of where it started. I was a, big achiever, or at least I thought I was. I started working at Bank of America by the time I was 17, started my own business by the time I was 18. I got pretty big in real estate. I made a decent amount of money, and I burned it down even faster. My drinking career started probably when I was around 11 or 12. I didn't want to be like my mom. I told myself I wasn't. And yet I ended up here. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that. I want to say my drinking really picked up. I found stimulants, and drugs is a big part of my story, and that's kind of what kickstarted a big problem for me. By the end of my use, I was drinking about a full handle of vodka a day, doing enough cocaine to kill a horse, and I was not in a good place. I was to the point where I would wake up every day with the intent of ending my life, but I said, you know what, let me get good and drunk first before I even do it. And by that time I go, well, I'm drunk, it's not that bad. So I was in that state for about 3 months. I got so bad to the point where I was bedridden. I weighed 130 pounds. Keep in mind, I weigh 170 right now, and I look pretty skinny. I was like a cracked out Jared Leto. It was not a pretty sight. I stumbled into an IOP program. I did not go into residential treatment. I refused it. I was to the point, and I wanted so much control over my life to the point where I refused detox. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I hit a point where that was my bottom, and I got to a detox doctor. He gave me some Ativan, and next thing you know, I popped all 5, and I ended up having 2 seizures when I detoxed. When I got sober, I didn't want to work a program. My mom went through Alcoholics Anonymous. That's all I knew, and little do I know now, she didn't make it past the first step, right? It gave me little faith in Alcoholics Anonymous. I hated the idea of God. I hated the idea of a church. That is the last thing that I wanted. I ended up being 60 days sober, and I relapsed again. And at that relapse, I said, I can't do this anymore. And I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. I got a sponsor. I love him to death. He's still my sponsor. His name is Ray. He's gay. He's a raver. I was like, that's the exact opposite of a Bible thumper. Count me in. I was like, let's do this. So he took me through the steps. I want to say first 60 days of me being, first 90 days of me being sober in the program, I did not want to read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was like, why would anyone want to read a book filled with a whole bunch of us? I don't want to read that. You're telling me I need to read a book? I'm already sober. That's good enough, right? And then I hit another bottom, but it was an emotional bottom. And, there I was again. I didn't want to be alive, right? I didn't have a purpose. And so after that period, I was like, okay, let me get into the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Step number 1 was the easiest for me to accept, right? I understand that I was powerless over alcohol. Once alcohol touches my lips, I know where I go. And that's back to where I started, right? All I know is I isolate, I do lots of drugs, and I do, I drink a lot. And I end up in an extremely miserable place, and I burn everything in my life down to the ground. As far as, step 2 and 3, thank you. I already did believe in a higher power. I was raised in a very Christian household, church 3 times a week, reading the Bible every single night. I'd get smacked if I didn't pray before I ate, right? And so but I did have this little belief, right, that something powerful was out there, and it was looking out for me. I had 16 overdoses. I shouldn't be alive. I'm a dead man walking. I'm sure a lot of you all are, right? I should have been dead a long time ago. And so step 3, I still work on that to this day. It's been 2.5 years, but sure, I go back to it. I don't want to give up my life. I want to control every single aspect of it, and I have my sponsee call me, and, he's worried about so many things. And to me, at least, I look at that, I'm like, oh, wow, like, I realize how easy it is to not care anymore, right? To a certain extent, right? Of course you care about other people, and of course you want to be kind and loving and tolerant. But that doesn't mean you need to worry about the things that you can't control, right? And so I had this philosophy in my head where it was, oh, you need to rely on God because, you're not a strong individual and you need to believe in this fictitious being. And in fact, now that I realize it, is that it's the exact opposite. The hardest thing to do is put your complete and honest faith into something where you're like, I believe. I have faith that this will happen. That is the scariest thing I've ever gone through in my life, and it still scares me to this day. It's very hard to keep doing that, right? But it's that daily reprieve. For me, the thing that kept me alive was service, right? Helping a newcomer. If you've got 30 days, even like 5 hours, someone has 1 hour. Someone's still using, right? There's always someone to help, and that's the only way I can get out of myself, right? Step 4 and 5. Being able to write down those resentments and being able to give that out and see my part. I hated so many people. But I realized, I was like, wow, I caused 90% of the things that why I hate them. Step 6 and 7, big thing, right? Character defects. For me, a lot of my character defects, it was greed and lust. I always cheated on my ex-fiance. I was always doing some, terrible things. And even in sobriety, right? It still consumes me to a certain extent if I'm not spiritually fit. It'll always go back to that. Steps 8 and 9, that's a very humbling experience. I have a huge ego. I'm sure a lot of you guys do too, right? But I could speak for myself. As far as steps 8 and 9, being able to make those amends, it really puts you in your place. It makes you understand and see the type of harm that you can do as a human being, right? Whether you're sober or not. I've done so much damage in sobriety when I wasn't working a program, and even patches when, early in, getting closer to a year, middle of a year of sobriety, I still did a lot of damage because once you get a decent amount of time, right, and you're like, oh, well, I can not go to a meeting for a week and I don't really want to drink. And then you start easing it on and it becomes worse and worse. Do those amends. Don't get complacent in your program. And if you finish the steps, make sure you're taking someone through the book, right? Work with another alcoholic will keep you sober. But also, remember, work your program as well. You helping someone work their program isn't you necessarily working a program yourself. And that's something that I forgot about as well, right? Service, it's a huge part. Step 10, being able to do that daily inventory so that way I don't keep causing harm in an everyday sense. Once I do that fourth and fifth step, yes, that talks about the past, right? But now I'm trying to preserve the future. As far as steps 11 and 12, step 11 is probably the biggest part in my life. I wake up every single morning, I pray. I pray minimum 3 times a day. I try and meditate while I can. I'm not the best at it, but I'm still working on it. And the times that I have, if I'm really in a tough situation, or if I do have a lot of time, I try and meditate before I pray, because that's the time where I feel most connected to my higher power. Steps 12, that is a huge one for me. I love my sponsees. I hope my sponsees love me. I don't know, love, hate. But I wish the best for them, and I wish the best for anyone that's coming into this program. This will be hard. It's not an easy thing, but I'm telling you, the grass is greener on the other side. I can't tell you whether or not you're going to get the car or the girl or the guy or whatever it might be, but I can tell you this. My life was so terrible in my youth. Someone told me something early in sobriety, and that was, I can't promise you things will get better, but I can promise you things will become different, and different is better if your life was like mine. And so, that's where I am, at least, and I try and keep that in mind, as well as, the things that you used to pray for, you are in them now, and kind of be aware of that. And that's something that I struggle with, is that I used to pray about things in early sobriety. I was like, I want the cravings to go away, and they are now. But now I'm like, I want the better job. I want more money. And so I keep this, selfishness sometimes still around. So, it's about being able to be present, right? And so, if you are somewhat new in here, or if you started working the steps, and you feel like you're going to use, talk to another alcoholic, be of service, give someone a ride, I do sponsor. If any of you guys need a sponsor, I'm here. I do work a lot, but I will make time, because at the end of the day, I won't have a job, I won't have anything if I don't have my program. And that's all I got.
One of your 5 Ativan to cool the nerves right now. What's it called? Alan, thanks for... actually, the speaker seeker asked me to speak. But thank you for sending me the PDF and everything. And thank you for guilt-tripping this audience into thanking me after I speak. That was wonderful. If you don't thank the speaker, you are not going to stay sober. That's wonderful. It's funny because it's like, thanks for your service. An alcoholic talking about themselves for 45 minutes. I don't know how much service that is, and then getting thanked afterwards, and people say, hey, you're so profound. Will you be my sponsor? It's there's I think your cleanup. Is that right? And then you, like, that's like whoever's cleaning up cigarette butts and like mopping the floors. That is service. It's thankless. It's quiet. It's done when nobody's looking. That's a beautiful thing, and getting involved in a meeting and seeing how these things run, and not coming. It was a paradigm shift. Some circuit speaker. Eventually, I'll get to circuit speaker. He said he had a shift when he was doing the old. That meeting doesn't have good sobriety, and like that meeting, like the judging the meetings as if it's like Rotten Tomatoes, as if it's like you're going to a movie and like that movie's no good. And then he's like, don't. It was like the JFK thing. He says, don't ask what AA can do for you, but you can do for AA, because it's built on. I know it's the JFK thing, but like it's a solid point of what he's bringing up, which is the giving it away to find it, not to keep it, not to get it, or anything like that. How's the view, Zoom? Are you getting a good profile? How do I look? Good? Yeah. But service, I will talk about service a lot. I used to think about service as just we do it because it makes sense, because page 62 is the condition, the underlying causes are selfishness, self-centeredness, 100 forms of fear, and problems of my own making. I have 16 years of sobriety, and I think the way my alcoholic mind works these days, because it's latent inside me and it's not going away, is that I go through the world and anything I experience or see goes through a lens of fear and self. And I have this warped mind, like what it says in the first page of the 12 and 12, warped our minds into such an obsession for destructive drinking that only an act of providence can remove from us, is that I get a text and then I have an overly emotional reaction to a problem of my own perception. I read things that aren't there. They're not in the email, but they're out to get me upon first reading. I'm not trying to be funny. It's every text and email and everything. You're out to get me, or you're trying to get something from me. And I pause, walk away. God, I have this one. I got 45 minutes, so I'm going to tell some anecdotes. But I was secretary of a meeting, and then I was giving out numbers because people want to speak or get commitments, and then I got this text that said, "Hey, give me your name so I can save you." And I thought, this fucking bitch. She thinks I'm a man that needs to be saved. One more of these controlling women that whips men. And then I just she means save you in her phone as a contact, you psychopath. But I read everything so that there's a problem, so that I need a solution, so that I need a drink. It's how my mind works now, today. And so I need a daily practice. I need a daily thing to do, or else it's just resentmentville. I'm a regenerative, resenting machine. My favorite definition of a resentment is if you're talking to somebody and they're not there, that's a resentment. Because you're in the car and you're like, listen, I'll tell you, and you're giving a speech about how wrong they are, and clearly you resent that person, clearly. Anyway, let's tell a story of experience, strength, and hope and stuff. I drank Bacardi 151 and Wild Turkey 101 from the bottle, room temperature, in the morning, giddy up. My drinking career was 2 years, and that's how much it went off. I am a purebred alcoholic, Irish Catholic. Hello, Mary and Jesus. This is perfect on this Vatican-like campus. It's so huge. I got lost getting here. And I didn't really go off on drinking until my early 20s. That's not to say my first drink, and I drank and smoked weed in middle school and stuff. But when it went off, it went off. I had a moment of clarity when I was 15 in Ireland, in Galway, and my uncle Tommy Noon and my father thought there was this rite of passage moment, and they gave me, "Son's your first Guinness." Well, I had plenty of beers before then, but for some reason, this was the one. In that second pint, I had a realization. What is this feeling? I want this feeling for the rest of my life. And I have heard many people share that sentence up here. Love, lust, psychotic obsession. I don't know what that is, spiritual experience. I don't know what that is, but I was locked in. It reacted with my blood. I don't know. All I know is I wanted it. And I got back to the States, and there was something preventing me from going full into drinking, because I also had a spiritual experience, I think the same summer, at one of these Catholic camps that my parents would send me to. I'm going to talk about my family in a minute. But it was a Catholic youth conference thing, and I went there with my two buddies, and we got sent to everything together, all these Christian Catholic camps, and we went with weed and knives so that we could get high and then whittle. We'd get sticks and whittle while they were singing "Shine, Jesus, Shine." Swear to God, that's how we got through Christian things. And so that's just to be clear. There was no plan or intention of having a spiritual experience. It was just to pass the time and get high. So they have in the Catholics believe there's a presence of God in the Eucharist, in the cracker, in the bread and the blood of Christ. Sorry again. So they have this night of adoration, and the priest says, we're gonna have a visitor tonight, and if you want to meet him, all you have to do is ask. And I was like, oh, they got a guest speaker or something like that? And I'm like, oh, they're talking about Jesus. they're quite confident this little guy's going to show up, and they start holding the Eucharist around in the monstrance. I can't pronounce that word. And people just start reacting. I mean, and it was like something was happening, and I was depressed out of my mind in this I'll talk about my family and depression and mental illness and everything in a second. I was in a bad spot, and I was like, I said the easiest prayer I've ever said, and for some reason, I think it stuck because it was pretty damn honest, and it was, please, Jesus. It was please. I might not even said Jesus. I think I just said please. And I experienced something. I'm not going to describe it. I'm not going to try to convince you of what it was. I don't care. I don't even know what it was, but it was something. And I remember thinking, so this is what all the buzz is about with my parents. Okay, everybody in my family has a minimum bachelor's in theology, including myself. My dad's a deacon in the Catholic Church. My mother's a doctor. She also has her master's in theology. My brothers went to Notre Dame, who fucking lost in the last minute. So excuse my language. What's it called? So he's finance, very successful, but he had a bachelor's in theology. My sister, Oxford, Fulbright scholar, Harvard, master's in theology as well. So everybody, my mother's Ivy League. I'm the painter of the family. I mean, I could not fit in less. I was the artist, and so that didn't fit in. So they sent me to a private school to straighten me out, and that had no art, and so I couldn't have felt stupider. Also, to get a slightly serious, my mother drank. Both my grandfathers came back from World War II. One of them saw terribly, was decorated and saw a lot of action, and they didn't have diagnosis back then. It was Budweiser and drinks. That was your Zoloft or your Wellbutrin or your Abilify, or not that I know these drugs. And he came back violent and had 9 kids. Okay, they are so Irish Catholic. I have 5 Aunt Marys. That's real. There are 5 variations of the name Mary in the Callahan household. Of those nine. Later on in life, my Uncle Wayne convinced me that my Uncle John's real name is Mary. So I thought he had me going that I thought I had an Uncle Mary. And I was like, gonna not believe him. Grandma's like making up Mary names. Anyway, that alcoholism goes all the way back to Northern Ireland on that side, and then my father's father died when he was 15 from alcoholism, from internal bleeding. He and this guy was like owned a business, built it from like charming, like everybody in the neighborhood loved him, stable, marriage, and like charismatic guy. And he drank himself to death. His esophagus hemorrhaged, and he bled, and my dad found him, and my dad had no dad because of that, and my mom had no father because of this violent, drunken alcoholism of abuse. And they decided to breed, and here I am. They met at Bible study, of course, of all things. So my mother is working with half a deck of cards. Like you learn to have compassion when you go through the steps. You like take an objective look when you're doing this inventory. Like, who is this person? Why do they do what they do? And this is my part, this is their part. And instead of stewing in this resentment and this victimization, you just have compassion and like love and forgiveness. What's the alternative, you know? But what that means is, because of her drinking, was I did not receive nurturing. I have bad experiences of neglect, and I used to just wish she would hit me so that she would hug or anything. There was no tucking in. There was no anything. She drank, and it's a huge neglect thing. And then I was told of how good I have it because I was not like beat in all these creative ways and I'm leaving out details of what happened to her. So to the day I hear other people's stories and I'm just like, I have no problems. Nothing happened to me, etc. Anyway, that doesn't make me an alcoholic. Abuse does not, there's not that straight line. I once later in life had this psychologist be like, do you think because of what you went through as a kid made you an alcoholic? And I looked at him with these like wolf eyes, and I was like, I'm an alcoholic because I love alcohol more than anything in my life. And like with this, like, you have no idea, bro. There's no one exists if I'm drinking. And he was just like, you sure it wasn't the trauma? And I'm like, it's incidental that I can't explain this obsession and this like download that happens of new software when I have a drink, and then I'm just operating as another person. Like, anyway, so I get involved in this. Now I'm going to jump back to what is my time? Do I have a timer? Yeah. Tell me when I'm halfway, please. Would you mind? Okay. So I come back from that Ireland thing, and I get involved in Young Life, which is a non-denominational. You know what Young Life is. Okay. And sorry, podium. I do feel like I should turn it because nobody's here. No, I don't want to rip up Zoom and stuff, all this getup. So I come back and I get involved in evangelical Christianity, which gets me out of the private school, and I'm able to go to Lower Merion High School, Kobe's alma mater, and but that was like a 50% Jewish school, and like I was Johnny Christian to these Jews, and just funny ass stories of like some Jewish kids converting, and the Jewish moms were so unhappy. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is I'm living this Christian life and I'm not drinking. And then I go into college and I'm on the straight line, and I don't go to art school, even though that's what I'm gifted at. And I'm finally flourishing in art in private school or in the public school. And I go into college and I have the virginity card signed, wait till marriage, and I'm doing the straight and narrow and teaching Bible study. I'm studying theology. I have so much junk from my childhood that is unaddressed. And then I get into my first relationship with Kira, who's a new convert to Christianity. And I start to become sexually active for the first time. But she passes the sniff test because she's like, has the word Christian on her. But she's just like, rape in her past and abuse and stuff that's untreated, and which ends up becoming a theme of me of only dating women who have my mom's childhood, like to redeem the inner child, to win the going after the people incapable of love. Anyway, this isn't therapy. So I have sex with her once. And my Young Life leader, who's like my sponsor plus my like boss, asks me, he's like, so what's up with you? You seem down. What'd you have sex with Kira? And I was like, yeah, once. I don't know how I feel about it. And because I was torn up. And And he says, let's get breakfast. And at breakfast, he proceeds to start quoting Genesis. And I'm like, what are you getting at? He proceeds to fire me by telling me that God's no longer calling me to be a youth minister. All in that 6 years of my life I gave to this thing. I had no high school experience. It was like I was Christian. The word was black and white. And then it's a college. I made those sacrifices, and my penis in one act just removed God. And I left that breakfast. And the thing from Ireland was that was latent inside of me was oh, the Jesus thing's out of the way. And the cart just found its way to the liquor store. And I drank a bottle of vodka, or I got a bottle of vodka, and I started drinking, and I drank every day for 2 years straight. And at the end, I was drinking beer, but then I pissed myself. I needed to drink. My tolerance went so high. I needed to drink so much beer that I would guaranteed pee myself. And then wine's nice, but it's not powerful enough. And then 80 proof immediately began to be a bottle a day. And so I needed to augment my 80 proof just to save some money with 151 and anything with 3 digits in the proof. I mean, if not, this happened come one. I was totally physically addicted to alcohol within 2 years. Have a bad joke there, not going to say it. So I do what's called a geographic after college. I'm going to go to Los Angeles. I'm going to do stand-up and do the Hollywood stuff. I've got this plan, and it's no day drinking, no morning drinking, none of this weird drinking, none of this just clearly a lush drinking. And that was ironclad, and I planned the 3 internships and everything. I land. I know one person who's also went to my alma mater, and his brother's in town, and his brother is going to LA just to hang. And his brother says, "Do you want Coronas by the pool?" And I say yes, and it's midday, and then I have Coronas by the pool. And then that night, there's an industry party, and I'm just going to make such an impression on everybody. And I go to the party, and there's a bar. Now, I can't drink at the bar because I need to order 16 to 18 drinks, and I don't have 16 to 18 friends to lie and I have the drink. So I drink where alcoholics drink. Where do alcoholics drink? Where you keep the liquor. The garage, where the cabinet, wherever the bottles are. So I said, like a respectful host, I say, "Hey, there's a bottle of Kettle One in the kitchen. Can you mind if I just serve myself from that?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure," because I don't want to make it obvious at the bar. 15 minutes pass, and Matt comes out holding an empty bottle of Kettle One, and he says my last name, and he goes, "You're the only one drinking this." And it was record scratch moment, everybody looking at this kid who's been drinking beers all day and then just cleaned a bottle of Kettle One, and it's just smooth at the party. And that was how long my geographic ended. I don't know, 20 minutes. It was over. It was over. And then it was just everyday drinking again. And then we'll get to my moment of clarity, which is even stupider. I was watching the Eagles play the Vikings for the divisional playoffs. I woke up at 9 a.m. and I was like, I'm going to have screwdrivers because that has orange juice in it, because orange juice and oranges are what people drink in the morning or something like that. And then I get to the couch and I'm like, I grab the Borsky vodka, which is a plastic handle at Rite Aid. I remember it was the cheapest I could find. And I was like, the orange juice is so far in the kitchen. So I'm just drinking Borsky handle room temperature vodka to watch just like that. And that is not weird to me at all. That is my medicine. That is my coffee. That is not weird. I go to the bathroom, and for some reason, I've got my shirt off. I look at myself in the mirror, and then this is my moment of clarity. This is for real. Oh my God, you are fat. You need to keep drinking down to 5 days out of the week to burn calories and lose weight, and then just get ripped on the weekends. So I was like, I know. I'll go to AA halfway. I'll go to AA, and I will apply what they do to 5 days out of the week to lose weight and then just get ripped on the weekends. That's how much, I don't know how many of these like newcomers are coming in and like have any semblance of what happens here. I came in here for weight loss only. I had no idea what this is. And that's how much like willingness I had. So I go to this meeting and I'm white, sweat, just like it's my first 24 hours without alcohol. And they're like, Jesus, dude, just soaking through it. And they're like, talk to me. I still remember, I felt like they were talking to me like I was like special needs or like you know, like a little kid. And they were just like, you're going through the DTs right now. So drink a lot of water and some sugars too. And you got to go through it in the next 48 hours to get out of your system. So I'm like, okay. So I go home and I'm like eating honey sandwiches because that's carbs. I go to the gym and I'm running miles and I'm chugging water, and I get home and I'm like shaking violently and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I need to get to my job. My job was like this intern at the Lubitsch building in Paramount, where I was the inner office copy and mail guy, and they had to pull me aside. I have a degree from a decent a good university, and they had to pull me aside because my stapling wasn't even. That's about how important and high value of an employee I am when I'm drinking. And so I say, this is ridiculous. I need to drink to get to this prestigious job. So you know what? I'm going to pray. And like, God's not going to answer the prayer, and I'm going to get to drink. So I get the Bible and I'm like, blow the dust off, and I'm like, okay, God. I didn't say it like that, but that's the sassiness. Like I was like, okay, God, do you even want me to stop drinking? And I open the Bible, and the first thing I read is in Luke I forget the chapter. It says, his name is John. And I was like, what the hell? And it says, his name is John, and no wine or liquor shall touch his lips. And I slammed the Bible and said, fuck you, and threw that thing across the room. Excuse my language. That's what I said. I did not have a spiritual experience. I had an experience of utter annoyance. And I just kicked in that room, so annoyed that my prayer, of all the prayers that were answered, it's in print, in English, addressed by name, you know. And my alcoholic mind did think, like, it doesn't say beer. It's wine or liquor, but like, that's how quick, like, it counters God. And then I come into I kick that night, and find out later I was seized for sure, and some CAT scan shows it all on my brain. And I go to AA, and I start listening, and I'm hearing things like this. My higher power is the waves, because when I push against it, it's too strong, and I can't control the waves. My higher power is the doorknob, because it opens doors. Or my God, they're saying God. My God's a doorknob. And I was like, what is this place? This keeps you sober? I've opened doors. I've been to the beach. None of this works. What is this, like, rudimentary pedestrian, like, make it up, it's all good, like organization? So, and to be clear, I was an arrogant, insecure, spiteful, full of resentment towards religion, full of resentment towards God. The doorknob and the wave girl are not the issue. I was the issue, and I was just not hearing it. Instead, I met a girl who was a waitress at the Rainbow Room at Bally's Total Fitness, and I got into a codependent relationship, and I had sober, unprotected sex for the first time, and I thought, this is what I want for the rest of my life. And that is what I did. I got into that relationship, and I'll skip that part and then I'm just going to breeze through slightly. 11 months into the relationship, she calls to tell me she's pregnant. And I find out at 24 that I just say to her right off the riff, like, whatever you choose, I support you. Like, I knew just in my, like, Catholic upbringing, like, I just had some, like, do the right thing. And she was crying, and I was just like, I'm not leaving, like, I'm here, etc. She had a resentment against abortion because her mother had so many after her. So this is TMI, but she grew up an only child. So her at 23 and I'm at 24, I'm becoming a father. And I have to put the pain pills down, which is what I was relying on to not drink. This happens later in my 9th step. I'll actually tell you that story right now. It's pretty funny. I became personal assistant to this asshole. He was so difficult, and but he was a former Division I athlete and had a bunch of back surgeries, so he took Oxy and Soma and Norco and everything like that, and I was the personal assistant, so I had to go to the pharmacy to get his drugs for him. And it was like 1, 2 for you, 1 for me, and so I would just scoop it off. Years later, I had to make amends to this guy, and so we're clear, all the steps are chill. The 9th step is bullshit. That thing is cruel and unusual punishment. I will write year inventories all day, every day. I'll talk to a God and he ain't gonna talk. And I'll tell this junk to some sponsor who's as much of a degenerate, if not worse than me. Like, none of these things really fazed me. The 9th step was not happening. You gotta be kidding me that I'm talking to these people. So I go to him and I'm like, hey man, I used to steal your pills. And he was like, this was years later, and he goes, it was you? And I'm like, uh-oh, buckle up. And he goes, do you know what happened with that? And I was like, oh God. He says that he was always running out of his medication. So his partners said to him, you're an addict, so we're going to have an intervention for you. And one of his clients was this Catholic screenwriter, and she said Mary appeared to her in a dream telling her to get Matt sober. I fooled Mary, bro, all right? So he got wind of it, and they had the car ready outside, and he was made this big defense, and then that business fell apart over his addiction, which didn't exist, and that's the end of that. He's having this intervention happening while I'm across town high on all his pills. So he's like, if you made this amends 2 years sooner, I would have flipped my shit. But a lot with the 9th step, you ask, is there anything left out? And how can I make this right? And they often say, you just did. Or they say, just don't drink. They often bring me back to step 1. And it's amazing how much they keep the scorecard, drink or not drink. And I want to make it all complicated. But, it's do not drink, please. Anyway, so I am facing down becoming a father, and I just drag my corpse into Marina Center late night, and I'm like, just give me somebody for this kindergarten spirituality where everybody's right and we make up God, and I was like, just give me somebody. And they gave me a sponsor, and I start working the steps. I put a year together, and then I'm gonna breeze a little through this, but I relapse. And it devastated me because I had a year sober. I was darling of the meeting. I was really working it. That relationship with my son's mom was she was getting off, and she was sabotaging it. But I was a father, and my son came out. I used to talk to him when he was in the belly, and when he was born, he was purple and crying. He wasn't getting oxygen or something from the crying, and they handed him to me, and I said, hello, my son. And he looked up and recognized my voice, and he stopped. He breathed, and then the purple color of his skin changed, and his skin turned the normal skin tone. And that's, I don't know if that's a spiritual experience or not, but that is permanently burnt into my soul, is how I would answer that. So I'm a father now, and I'm working the steps, and I have this infant in my life, and friends and family are all 3,000 miles away, and I'm going to Marina Center late night. When I have 90 days sober and my son is 9 months old, I'm come home and I open the door and I find a pair of men's black Chuck Taylors by the door. And I think, those aren't mine. And I walk into the bedroom and I find my son's mother in bed with Nick from her math class. And they are scrambling to put clothes on. And then Nick stoops down and hides behind a crib. A crib is not a solid object. I could see through the bars, and I was like, this, screw another guy. This guy is an idiot, But I'm like holding the baby, and like I leave there. I'm like traumatized. My parents are like, get out of there. They like get a one-way ticket, and I go to Philly, and then I'm from Philadelphia, and then I experience physical separation from my infant son for the first time. This creature I got sober for, and I was devastated. And she like got vitriolic and started saying like, John Luke loves Nick, and Nick reads to John Luke. John Luke's my son, and they're really close. And she would say these things to just like, I don't know, psychologically damage me. And I'm in Philly for like 6 to 9 months, and then I have a falling out with my father over this business thing that went south, and he kicks me out of the house, and I go to Boston where my sister has a couch, and I've got 2 suitcases and $1,000, and I go up there, and then I'm on her couch, and then her landlord says too many people in the apartment. It goes against the agreement. He's got to go. So I chased some job opportunities in like advertising or sales or something, and they fell through, and then I kicked out of the apartment, and now I have nowhere to go in Boston. And so I sleep in a train station. I sleep like I'm squatting, or no, I rent furnitureless, like sleep on a room in towels in Brighton. I'm in Dorchester, Austin. It's being unhoused in LA is so much better than Boston. It's cold and frustrating to find housing there. I finally find a place that is putting me up on a futon, and I get a job. Like I'm bussing tables, I'm painting houses. I have 15 minutes left, about.
10 minutes left.
Okay, so I'll get through this. So and then I have like my first big manic episode, and I'm this close to drinking. In fact, I dig through my roommate's stuff, and there's a bottle of vodka, but it's empty, and then I have this moment of like I cannot be trusted. I have to be locked up. Like I go to Mass General, and I just go to the emergency room, and I'm like, you have to knock me out with pills or put me somewhere. If I leave here, I'm going to drink, and I'm not going to see my son, and I don't know what's going to happen. That's powerlessness. And they said, we don't dispense meds, but we think we know a place for you. They didn't say it like that, but they did. And they send me to the psychiatric hospital, to McLean Mental Institute. So not on the detox ward, in the like depressive, you're going to kill yourself ward. I think that's the technical name for it. And I didn't drink. I mean, I had 18 months sober, and I'm sitting in this psychiatric hospital at 18 months, like just nothing. And I leave there, and the thing that changes is I go to the meeting after the meeting. I went to this 1 o'clock meeting at Marsh Chapel, and they got coffee afterwards. And I just got wrangled to go to coffee, and I was just like not going to join this like idiot AA club. And we were a group that would not mix, and those people became my friends. The shit talking, I would love to describe these characters, but I don't have time. But they were like Sammy Sunshine from Minnesota, and like, you know, grouchy ass, like, you fucking motherfucker, like from Boston, and then like, anyway, I could go down the list. And I just hung out with them, and then I got this sponsor who Gay AA scooped me up there. I found this sponsor who had what I wanted, and he was so kind and patient with me. I have no words for what that man did. That's Jim, and Yeah, so I bus tables. I lived very frugally, and I saved up money and went back to LA. I think at 3 years sober, and then I was reunited with my son, and I was spending all my money flying back and forth to see him. I'm back in LA, and then I meet a lovely, stable, solid girl, Mexican girl from a good family named Natalia, and Natalia gets she becomes my girlfriend, and then she becomes very close to John Luke, my son, and it's this beautiful, beautiful chapter in my life. And then my son's mother feels very threatened by that, so she calls DCFS and tells them that we are having sex in front of my son, and she's changing in front of them, and we're making loud noises like against the wall. And DCFS, so they have police powers. They can just, with no burden of proof, just separate a family. And they did that, and then they investigated it over the months, and I'm just like, traumatized. And then they dismiss it. It's unfounded. And then a few months pass, and my son's mother gets wise to like how the system works. She doesn't give up. And then she falsifies evidence and then presents it to the Rape and Trauma Center of Santa Monica and then the Culver City Police. And one morning, I walk to my car, and 5 Culver City cops surround me and arrest me for lascivious misconduct with a minor. And this is the worst chapter of my life. And I bring this up because I had just got 5 years sober, and within 7 days, I was in a police jail for a crime I didn't commit. And like having to post bail, or I'm about to do county, like totally life turned upside down, so to speak. And I posted bail, and then I went through a family court custody battle, and then court appointed 7:30 evaluation was appointed. 7:30 evaluation was demanded by the judge, so a court-appointed psychologist was ordered to evaluate both sides, and all the evidence was dismissed. I was under monitored visitation, where this monitor would follow me around 10 feet behind me to make sure I wouldn't rape or hit my son, and I would pay $50 an hour and see him for 6 hours, and that went on over a year. And I went through this thing, and I couldn't talk about it in AA because it was so despicable. I did find one home group men's meeting where I talked about it, but I was totally like traumatized, and I developed this bad like tic, and I was just like verbal and physical. And I fought it for 2 years, and then the court-appointed psychologist concluded that my son has never been raped. I never raped my son, but my son thinks he was raped, which means he was coached into saying things and coached into thinking my daddy's a bad man, etc. But then they'd like interview me with my son, and this little fucker hadn't seen his dad in a week, and he would just attack me like, daddy. And they had to separate us just to conduct the interview. He exhibited no signs of like fear with me, but he was able to say the training that my son's mother and her grandmother gave him. So I went from 0 to 40% physical and then 50% legal. And then she was suggested that, or it was like ordered that if she has any more ideas that I'm this monster, she has to talk to a therapist and not call the police. So, that's I mean, a little bit winning, but like nothing happened to her. Like 5 minutes, thank you. And then I would like go to my son's practices, and I would on the weekends, and I would stand there with her and her family who accused me, and I would just show up for my son, and I was alone, and my friends and family were. Anyway, I ended up marrying Natalia, and it was like going to be this beautiful story, but I was so psychologically damaged. I don't want to turn this. I have 5 minutes, so I am in SLAA for 6 years now. I'll just say this. I concluded that feelings were a liability. The reason why you got hurt is because you felt. Feelings are a liability. You can't feel, and you can't ever give a woman power over you. Natalia loved me no matter what, and that was a threat. She was a threat, so I needed to push her away, do things to deaden my soul and to not feel. And I pushed her away, and she left. And we got divorced, and my world crumbled when I was 10 or 11 years sober, somewhere in there. And then I entered SLAA and went through physical withdrawal from... I cried the tears that I never cried about my childhood, about the Young Life stuff, about the accusations, and that was like so painful for 6 months, like sobbing. A friend of mine's on here who's from that program, and he's like such a good man. He's been my friend for a few years in that program. I bring all that up because of one simple thing. I didn't drink. And I used to drink Bacardi 151 and Borsky vodka from the bottle, room temperature in the morning. And by some miracle, I did not drink. And that's a miracle. And that's the number one gift of this program, is the best beautiful thing is one day sober, physical abstinence from alcohol, one day at a time. If your head hits the pillow and you're sober, you are a roaring success in Alcoholics Anonymous, bottom line. I work through my resentments, and I have a beautiful relationship with Catholicism. I don't do this little war between spirituality versus religion. I'm quick to see where religious people are right, and I make use of what they have to offer, and all are welcome here, no matter what faith tradition you come from. I'm quick to see where Alan Watts is right and make use of what they have to offer. Dostoevsky, everybody. I just consume it all because I need to go deeper and deeper into faith and service. And in order to stay sober, I do not wake up with the natural compassion and altruism for my common man to be of service. I don't. It's so hard. It's so hard to give and to give and to give. And service has this beautiful built-in challenge of you have to turn to a God of compassion. For me, a God of compassion and love and forgiveness to download that stuff into me so that I can do that. And in doing that, a natural byproduct of that is the desire for alcohol, the desire for escape goes away. And I recoil from it. I think of, like, if I see one of those bottles, I'm just like, Jesus, Johnny, like, how'd you even keep that down? Like, it's gross. And that is a total psychic change in character and everything. This is an inside job. The world around you does not change. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. It is you. You change. Traffic's going to be traffic. And people who are your enemies, who cook up false evidence and send you to jail, they're going to do that. You not drinking doesn't get you like external circumstances like fucking green lights and burritos. I don't know, figure out your analogy. But like the world around is the world around, and that's life, and it's me that I get to change. So that's why they say it's an inside job here. Am I like out of service or what? 1 minute? Wow, a lot of pressure to land this plane. I say all my zingers. Thanks for showing up, Jordan. You sent the text that said, I really try when I'm asked to be, when I'm asked to be a service to speak, is to show up. And in this present moment, I can access. There is no tomorrow. There is no yesterday. There is actually only today and this present moment. I can't even not drink tomorrow or drink tomorrow. It doesn't exist. Or yesterday. Or I can't work the steps or not work the steps yesterday or tomorrow. I can only do anything in 24 hours, and I sleep 6 hours, so it's really only 18 hours at a time. So it's just this integer of time. And whenever you go to sleep, just do the math. If you go to sleep at midnight, your entire life is the following 3 hours. That's it. I don't have to practice my defense. I don't have to figure anything out. I have action I do in the next 3 hours till I go to sleep. My entire life is 3 hours. That's something that I can do. Like if I can lean, if I lean on my spiritual practice and the fellowship of AA, I can have freedom in that 3 hours. And that's my time. Thank you.